How you doing? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to another time here at the book club. Uh, so glad you made it. So glad you're here. Uh, Not sure how much the lighting is. It's gonna leave for this. We're closing out. We finished our book. We've been reading since October. Last Sunday, Bethenny Frankel, Business is Personal. The truth about what it takes to be successful while staying true to yourself. We got to the end. We started back in October and we've been reading through and we got to the end last Sunday. So this month, starting today, we're going to do a summary, a review of the book, going through some of the things we've learned in the course of going through the book. So that's what we're going to do this month. Like I said, our next book is going to be The Good Life. The Good Life, right? So if you can get a copy, great. If you can, well, just flow along with us. So let me bring up my slide here and we'll show. All right, I believe you can see my slides. So I'm going to move this a bit up. All right. Well, that's Bethenny Frankel's book. We're finishing off here. Our next book is The Good Life. And we'll try to do take a little bit out of our new book, just to, as we give ourselves, some kind of a taste, an appetizer to what we're to expect in our new book. So qualities of a good life, a good life is a combination of the experience of goodness in different areas, right? If you say you have a good life, it's not just one area of your life. It's not just that you're rich. It's not just that you have a good marriage. It's not just that you have good children. It's a whole combination of different aspects of your life. Some people are rich but sick. Some people have a good marriage, but they don't have good children. They don't have children at all. So when we talk about prosperity from a Christian angle, it's talking about being in the flow of all that is good. It's not just about money, like people tend to gravitate towards, both the people that make the mistake and the people that think that they're the holier than thou. When we use the word prosperity, is that which God desires for us, is that which God has created us to be in the flow of. Right. So when we talk about a good life, we're talking about someone that has a combination of different attributes of goodness that makes one happy and fulfilled. Right. So that means one is in good health, one is happy, one has the right pleasures of life. One is at peace, one has money to meet their needs, an extra to meet their wants, and one has a good name, a good reputation. And we'll be looking more at this as we go into the book, starting from next month, right? First Sunday of next month, we'll start our book, The Good Life. So we started the book and we did an overview. And one of the key things we took off, setting us up as we started this book is Rabbi Daniel Lapin's quote, where he says, life is business, business is life. Anne was kind of concerned that she was not a business person and she thought maybe the book would not benefit her, but Rabbi Lapin tells us the whole of life itself is a business, and business itself is part of life, is life itself, right? So they're interchangeable. They are parallel truths that run between the two of them from which we can benefit, right? If you know about life, then you should know about business, because business is life, right? So it is not about having a business or a life. It's about having a business and a life, right? Everything that is in life are just the same things that you do in business. You negotiate, you sell yourself, right? It's just the same thing about us in business, right? Life requires effort, right? Business requires effort. It was never designed by God to be easy. Life, people looking for easy life. Life is hard. Question, compared to what? Right? Life is what it is. It's up to us to raise up our game to meet the requirements of life, right? That's why we're here, right? Until we die, we're going to have to be the ones to make the effort, right? To live, above the seeming pull, gravitational pull, in the negative direction, or the flow, downstream, right? Life requires our flow upstream to where the source of life is, right? That's where clean water is, right? So we can never sidestep hard work when it comes to life, right? Some people deceive themselves and say, "Oh, I want to work smart, so I won't work hard." That's foolishness, right? You will always work hard all the days of your life, because that's what life entails. It's just important that as you work hard, you need to be smart about it so you can get the right reward for your hard work, right? You don't want to walk like the elephant and eat like the ant, right? That's why you need to add smartness to your hard work. It's not smartness or hard work, it's hard work and smartness, that gives you the right result, the right momentum, the right leverage to be able to excel in life, right? So we exist in our heart, in our head, right? We live in our heart. Life is about living in and from our heart, right? That's where life truly is. We have our head to help us, make the best of the interactions that take place. But if all you do is stay in your head, you will not live, right? You only exist, right? Life is meant that we bring our heart to the game, but not forget our head in doing that. But the heart comes before the head, right? Until we bring our hearts to whatever we do, we're not going to be alive, right? We need to bring up the fullness of our person into whatsoever we do, right? The power of being and living is a power of our subconsciousness, right? Whether we know it or not, we're run and we're driven by the power of our subconscious being. Right? So whatsoever is in our subconsciousness is what is running our life when we switch off our consciousness, which we so often do, because our conscious being, is not designed to work 24/7. Our subconscious being is designed to work 24/7. So whatever we store in our subconsciousness has the leverage over our life, right? Anytime we switch up our consciousness, which we are designed to do, we're designed to switch it up when we sleep, right? You cannot be conscious when you're sleeping. That is not sleep. When you switch up your consciousness, your subconsciousness is taking over, right? Even during our wake time, there's a limit to which our conscious being can grasp, right? You're looking at the thing, anything you're looking at, you're not grasping everything in there, but your subconscious being is grasping everything, right? So you need to then empower your subconsciousness to work in your favor and not against you, right? So there's a need to be cognizant of that and prepare your subconscious person for success, right? And the way we do that is it's making sure that we have our values, our beliefs are in the right settings. It's rightly positioned, right? So because our consciousness is driven, right, by our beliefs, right? Is driven by the interpretation we're giving to the stories of our life, right? So that's important. That's what drives you. That's what, as it were, like a north-seeking compass, it will be pointing you, right, to it will be pointing you to where you need to go, right? So no one succeeds. So no one succeeds by hiding their inadequacies from others, right? You need to be authentic if you're going to make it in this life. That's why you need to clean your house, right? Clean your house, clean your subconsciousness. Make sure you know what is stored up there. Make sure you know what your values are. Make sure you know what your beliefs are, right? Make sure you know what your mission is, your vision is, right? That is what you bring to the marketplace, right? And you come to the marketplace as you, not trying to be someone else, right? You have to accept you to be able to succeed in life, right? And, accept you, coming with your strength, knowing your weaknesses and knowing where you need to grow, and, things you need to cover, as it were. But don't deny where you are, right? You're not going to succeed by deceiving yourself or hiding away your inadequacies, right? In our inadequacies is contained in our humanity, and you need your humanity to win in life, right? You need to be real, right? So the secret to true and real success is authenticity, like I said, and authenticity enhances growth mindset, because you accept who you are and know where you want to be, right? You have a starting point to get to where you want to get to. You want to build a skyscraper, you need to know the foundation upon which you want to build. You are not going to start from first floor. You're going to start with what you have, your foundation, and build from there. I love what Oprah Winfrey said, said that to be authentic is the highest form of praise, right? You're fulfilling your mission and purpose on earth. When you honor the real you, you're honoring your creator, you're honoring your journey, so far, right? Your whole life becomes a prayer of thanksgiving. You're appreciating the one who has made you. For us Christians, the Bible says that it is God's will for us in Christ Jesus that we give thanks. Right? That is God's will for us in Christ Jesus that would give thanks, right? And that's part of them accepting who you are, accepting your journey, irrespective of what your journey has been up to today, because there's a seedling of greatness in that journey, even though it doesn't look like it at this point in time. There's a seedling of greatness. Unless you accept it, that greatness will not come to be in your life, right? So that's the overview. We'll go to chapter 1, and in chapter 1, the title was, you've got to be in it to win, right? If you're not in the game, you can't win the game. If you don't buy the ticket, you can win the lottery, right? You need to be intentional about life, right? You need to be proactive and intentional about life. You cannot expect to reap if you have not sown, right? You have to be intentional at the game of life, right? You have to, William Ernest Henley would say, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Truly we are, right? You are the master of your fate. There's no destiny. Destiny is the decisions you make every day, right? That is the destiny that is. The decisions you make every day. You are the master of that destiny. You are the master of your fate. You are the master of your reaping. You are the master of your harvest, right? You are the captain of your soul. You are the captain of the sheep that is you, right? And you will need to lead and direct your soul, your sheep, your body, your life in the direction, to the place you want it to go, right? So there's no perfect plan, right? But you still need to plan, right? You need to plan, but know that as you go into execution, you have to be ready to make the right adjustment based on what you meet, right? On what you meet in the field, right? So execution is king, but planning is important, right? Because if you don't plan, then you have nothing to make the right adjustments against, right? So still going on in that, Ralph Waldo Emerson puts it this way. He says, the only person you are designed to become is the person you decide to be, right? You're not going to become what someone else decided for you. It has to be your decision, right? Except irrespective of what any other person says, even God. If you don't agree with God, you are not going to become that thing. You have to agree with God. You have to agree with any other person to become what they're saying, right? So you are a master of your fate, a captain of your soul, right? To enhance and ensure our evolution, along the continuum of life, right? We must be proactive, not reactive. We must be intentional. Don't forget, the continuum of life is that place where we get income into this world and we're dependent. We'll grow. As we grow in this life, we become independent. Then we make choices that are called interdependent choices. Why? Whether it's in marriage, whether it's in teaming with other people, whereby we join hands with others, we submit some of our independence so that we can link up with someone else and have what we call synergy, or we call it a mastermind, so that you can do more, right? Because synergy is a sum which is higher than the individual potentials, right? So you have what we call a mastermind. You can do more, right, by coming into an interdependent relationship, right? So it's your call, right? Nobody's coming to do anything for you. Wishing would not help you. Wishing does not work. You have to make a decision as to what you want in your life for you to get it, right? The universe has no place for sentiments. I wish. You got to do it. You got to sow the seed for you to have the reaping. If you don't sow, you don't have an harvest, right? And for as long as so we are responsible, right? We are responsible for our life. Until we take that responsibility, we don't build resilience, right? Or become stronger as we get involved in life. If you're not involved in life and you're just separating yourself out of life, you don't want to get involved, you don't want to be hurt, you're not going to build strength, you're not going to build resilience, you're going to be a baby all the days of your life. You need to get involved in life, you need to get into the mud, and do your own part, sow your seed for the harvest you want, right? So you need to be hard on yourself, right? Jim Rohn would say you need to be hard on yourself. Work harder on yourself than you work on your job. Build yourself, build yourself, right? Build yourself. That's what's important, right? All right, let's move on to chapter 2. That's chapter 1. So chapter 2 says success is the intersection between intention and luck, right? So pretty much we talk about luck, or what we call serendipity, right? It's something that is a reward. Serendipity or luck is a reward. It doesn't just happen. Luck doesn't go to everybody. If you sit down in your house, do nothing, luck will not come to you. You have to step out. While I am on the way, the Lord help me. While I am on the way, I got lucky. While I was on the way, I got serendipity, right? It's a reward. Luck is a reward. It doesn't come to everybody. It comes to those that are busy at something, right? So Bethenny says intention is made up of 4 parts, it says you have to be deliberate attention to the matter at hand, right? So you're deliberate and you're giving attention to the issue before you, right? So Motaba Pera says, what we focus on and feel, we attract in our lives, right? Our destiny is consistently shaped by our thought. Whatever you focus on, right, and you feel, you have the right what we call vibration, you get into the frequency of the thing you are expecting, you are attracted to you, right? You attract whatever it is that your mind is preoccupied with, you attract it. That's why we say you should lead by faith, not by fear. Don't let your mind be preoccupied by the things you don't want, because you're going to attract it, right? Be preoccupied by the things you want, so that you can attract it. It's a spirit, right? Like attracts like, the things that I like to your spirit are the things that will come. So if you focus on the things you don't want, that's what you will attract. Focus on the things that you want, that's what you will attract, right? So rich people focus on opportunities. Poor people focus on obstacles, right? Rich people are solution-minded. Poor people are just looking at how it work, right? And that's why it doesn't work for them, right? You need to. It's the same people, same thing we all face. It's now the way we define it or what we focus on will determine whether you become rich or poor, right? Let's go on. So second thing she says is that you need to have a clarity about what is needed, clarity about what is needed to be accomplished in each area of your life, right? You have clarity about what is needed to be accomplished in each area of your life, right? So yeah, you need to have clarity, because if you don't have clarity, then yeah, you're not going to get what you're looking for, right? Light requires that this clarity. That's why we need goals, right? You need to be clear as to what you want, so that, because your subconscious mind requires clarity. If there's no clarity, then it won't go to work. It requires clarity. That's why there's power in focus, because when you focus on a thing, you are in its essence giving a message into your subconsciousness to go to work on that thing you're focused on, right? So that's where clarity helps you. If you're able to, your clarity is a message into your subconsciousness as to what is important to you, right? And that kind of helps. Stephen Covey's second habit talks about, his first habit is be proactive, right? Second habit says begin with the end in mind. Have in your mind, what is it that I'm aiming for? What is it that I want to happen? What is my end product, right? Where am I going? Right, because when you do that, you is a messaging again to your subconsciousness as to whatever we're doing now, this is where we want to end, right? So if you tell your subconsciousness that, it will find ways to get there, right? So and that's what we'll talk about, being having a perfect plan. It's one that knows where the end is, not one that just bothered about today. Several ways we get to the end that you want, but you must have a end, something that your mind is focused towards getting to, right? So the third thing she says around intention is there needs to be conscious planning of the steps needed to get there. So you know what you want, where you're going. You need to consciously plan to get there, and that ties again to Stephen Covey's. I believe that would be Stephen Covey's third habit, right? Begin with the first in mind. Begin with the first in mind, right? Begin with the end in mind. First things first. Put first things first. I believe that's the way it goes. Put first things first. Even though you start, where you're going. Then when you're planning, you need to then start from first thing, and walk towards the end that you have at the back of your mind. And that goes with planning. You start with the first thing. What is the first thing I can do? You know where you're going to, right? That you need to be realistic as to where you are today. What can I do right now towards where I want to get to, right? So that's part of our planning. What can I do today, towards getting to that heights I want to get to? People get defeated or discouraged by the height of their dream, but nobody's saying that you should do that today. That's where you want to get to. Then come home and say, where I am today, what can I start doing today in the direction of where I am going to, so you begin, you put first things first, and that's what we'll put together to get you to where you want to get to, And fourthly, she says that you need to be ruthless about the use of time. You don't want to waste time. Life is made of time, and time is a limited resource. Every second you don't use rightly, you cannot get back. So if you're intentional, you need to know what you're trying to get achieved. You need to start with the end in mind. You have to put first things first, but then you have to optimally utilize the time that you have. Each of us just has a certain number of days we've been allotted in this life, so we're not probably going to get more, but we need to make the best of what we have. That's how we rejoice in our harvest. So local serendipity, like I said earlier on, is a reward for living life the right way. If you live life the right way, luck will come your way. Serendipity will come your way, right? So you need to be, to be intentional, you need to be deliberate, you need to be clear, you need to be conscious, and you need to be ruthless, right? So you need to be deliberate, you need to be clear, and you need to be ruthless about the use of time. right? So money is only good for things money can do. You don't forget about that, you know. Uh, we don't pursue money when it comes to money. We pursue the things money can do, and that's the benefit and power of money, right? If you're only chasing after money, you will not have energy. You need to chase after the things that money can do. You know, it's not about money, it's about what money can do. That's why you need to be clear as to the end you're looking for, you know, because then the end is what money can do, not just money. You know, money is a good servant to get you the hand you're looking for, but it's also a terrible master if you don't have any end to put it to. Right. So let's move on to chapter 3. All right. So in chapter 3, it was said God designed creation to help man to succeed. God designed man to succeed, right? And title of chapter 3 here is we're talking about the true process, right? God designed man to succeed. God designed us to succeed, right? Man was designed to succeed. That is the essence of creation, right? We're designed and programmed to succeed, not to fail. We're designed and programmed to succeed. The default of life that to get the success that has been designed for us is to work in faith and in love, right? The two saying a corruption came to our creation and brought fear, right? Fear will work against the programming for success that God has set for us. If you work in faith and love, you'll be in line with the programming for success that God has put in effect. But if you work according to fear, you're going to be working against God's plan for your life, right? Fear distorts the original creation, right? So we need to trust God for the journey, right? That's before us, right? You know, the journey before us, you know, what we call the in-betweens of life. I'm here right now. I know the end I want to get to. I need to trust God through that, right? It's not only one way that I would get there. There's several ways that can lead me there. And typically it's not a straight road, right? Because we have to learn and become the person that can produce what we're looking for, right? And depending on how we respond to the different schools God brings our way, you know, it could be, it will determine the timing, you know, we'll get there. A straight road, you know, it's the shortest distance, but God is more interested in who is going to make out of us than what he's going to give to us. He wants to make us first before he gives to us, right? So we need to trust God for the journey. God prepares the man for the throne, and that's what God does in the in-between. There are no suddenness in life. You have all this fake prophets telling you about suddenly this, oh, you have to pray this, you know, they're just trying to make a fool of you. They want to make you their servant. They want to use you, right? They want to make mismeal of you. Life will not give you any suddenly. God will not give you something he has not prepared you for, right? So you need to go through the preparation process and become before you get that which you're looking for, right? So being content doesn't mean that you're not ambitious. You know, being content means that you are not anxious, right? That anxiety is not having a better view. You are at peace where you are on the way to where you want to be. You know, that's what contentment really is, right? So Zabi Raber says your attitude is an expression of your values and expectation, right? So the attitude with which you carry yourself, you know, it just shows who you are, right? You know, and we talked earlier on that you needed to be clear on your values, you know, your values, your beliefs will determine your expectation, you know. So the poor are problem-minded, like we said earlier on, the rich are solution-minded. You know, that's what separates them, you know, from one another. You know, just a quick example, like I typically would do with my fam, you know, where we're thinking of, we over this weekend, we're planting our plantation, you know, and we had different stop gaps, you know, in getting it started, and my farm manager, as usual, was kind of focused on the problem, and I had to help him, break through different hurdles to make it workable that we're doing this now over the weekend, even though we had a very busy week, because we're doing our 8th batch of Gary this last week. We harvested cassava, peeled it, and ground it. We're leaving it, to ferment. We're pressing some today, and we're going to start frying tomorrow. In the midst of all of that is when we also started planting our plantation yesterday. We got 600 in the ground yesterday. We're supposed to get 800 in the ground today, and that would be 1,100 to go after that. So there's always a way through. There's always a way through. Well, it's going to have problems in life. Life is itself, has challenges. So it's nothing new when I say there are challenges. It's what's new and what's expected is also being able to walk past the challenges, find a solution, find an answer to the problem, right? And that's what separates the poor from the rich, the boys from the man, right? And I know that you are destined to make it, and hoping you learn something from this. Is a summary number 1. We've gone through the overview and the first 3 chapters. There are a total of 13 chapters in this, the total of 13 chapters in the book. So today we've gone through overview in chapter 1 to 3. We're scheduled next week to go through chapter 4 to 7. The third week we'll go through chapter 8 to 10. And lastly, we'll close with chapter 11 to talk about the epilogue. We'll close it out with that on the last Sunday of this month. And we'll start with our new book on the first Sunday of next month. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. I know I spoke my normal fast self, but if I'm too fast, just let me know. Any of my channels will let me know I'm too fast. I can slow down. But I also don't want to bore you. This is my normal me, right? I speak pretty fast. Being it's going to be recorded, we can always play it over and over again. You can see the slides also, so they'll help you. Anyways, have a good one. God bless you. Have a great week ahead, a great month ahead also. See you next Sunday, God willing. Shalom. Bye-bye.